Awesome. We have your name and your voice, which is two parts of the whole. So there's 4 out of 7 members here. Does that give us a quorum?
I do believe that's
Awesome. We're gonna rock and roll then. Before we start, we need to take a vote around the issue of whether or not the meeting is conducting essential business so that we can proceed by Zoom and post the recording later. So I guess we can take a motion in a second on that if people feel that today's agenda fits that criteria.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
I'll second that.
Awesome. Thank you, Ms. Green. Let me actually take notes. I've also got our attendance here based on who's on the screen. I'm just going to take vote. All in favor of the meeting being essential business, say aye.
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 Any nays? Okay. Okay.
for your purposes of your meeting. Remember, you are having a roll call vote. So when you're doing those ayes, I presume you're noting that that's a roll call vote for each of those individuals, just for sake of good order.
Okay. Would you feel better if I did a roll call vote?
I think your meeting would be more in line with the rules. Yes.
Okay. Yay or nay as to the essentialness of the business in front of us today? Sherry?
Yay.
Commissioner Wheeler?
Yay.
And Susan?
Yay.
And myself. Yes. Very good. I would like to take a moment of silence now. It's helpful to me before I begin a meeting to have just a moment to collect myself. And certainly if it feels right to you, set an intention for doing the business of Washington County in the next hour. Thank you. All right, so we have just a few items. We want to get an update from Susan on the website. We want to delve into the social media policy that Ms. Wilkinson did so much good work on, and kind of just think about some of the key issues within that. Ms. Saylor has an update for us on the monitoring system for social media. We want to select a standing meeting time, although we may want to put that off until we can have all of us weighing in, since that's the whole point. And then finally, the last thing is just the internal updates that we're doing by email, just to deliberate briefly on that, the utility of it, and any input. So let's start with the website. Saylor, do you want to tell us about that?
I do, and I'm going to share my screen so that we can look at a few things together. Let's see. Why does it not want to show that one? Alrighty. What we've got, we have two companies that do websites for municipalities. These come very well recommended. I'm going to show you a couple of 3 examples from each. This one is Civic Plus is the first one I'm going to show you. I did find out that in the past we have had Civic Plus quote doing a website. That is Shelby County, Tennessee's website, which you're seeing here now. Everybody can see my screen, right? See the beautiful Pink Palace Museum there. They also do Williamson County. They just finished this website and launched it within the last month. And there's some bells and whistles that they add into this that I really kind of think we can use to our advantage. They do a great, we would have all kinds of input on the layout and the design. They have several options, which we are looking at as well, a notification system that would tie into iPause and send out emergency alerts that we could also customize to send out alerts on events going on. People could come into the website and sign up to get updates on meetings and agendas sent to them. They also did Lebanon, Tennessee's website in beautiful Wilson County. And I will send you all these links. You don't need to worry about writing them down, just so you can look at some of the examples. This system here is the Notify Me system, which would come free with the website, which would be the email system. It is not the one that ties into iPAWS. That is an add-on. And I've worked with 911 and emergency management to evaluate these options to make sure that it would fit what they use that for as well. The other company is Granicus. They did Columbia County, Georgia's website that you're seeing here. It's pretty, it's functional. Honestly, I'd be happy with either of these options. We're just seeing where they can come in on price. Since a lot of this qualifies for the CARES Act funding, they are coming down on their prices for us. So that's a good thing. They did the town of Gypsum out in, I think this is Arizona. It's out west. Kind of a nice look and feel with the I want to, so you can find stuff. They did Oak Island, North Carolina's website. So there's a lot of good options. They also have notifications, online payments, little widgets that come with the websites. So we're looking into those. They also have an agenda management function, Allison, that I'm going to be roping Teresa into at some point to look at, that customizes workflows and would prevent her from having to do so many PDFs. The system actually generates the PDF on its own. She would just drop in Word files and organize them, and it would create the PDF file. And I know that's been at some points, you know, an issue in that file, deciding it doesn't want to play well with others. And
I'm not
Shelby-
following that, but I'll ask you about that in a minute.
Yeah,
That-
we'll follow it.
that's-
We'll follow back around on that piece, but that is another option we can add in there if we want to. That might help with just agenda preparation and, you know, just help streamline the process for you all to make it easier to where it's not such a struggle there on that last day and when people decide to move things.
Well, I think I would recommend that they stay separate. I think the issue that we've had is human issue, you know, and I don't think that any website can address that. And we're working with the highest level of Adobe on PDF files.
Yeah,
So
that-
I would encourage you to incur any cost or make it to where Teresa and the legal department have to work through the website. I think
it's
we should.
not, it's a separate piece. It's not through the website. It is a separate piece.
Yeah, I would leave that. Y'all don't need to worry about that. I'll talk to you about that in case
Okay.
that is something that would add a benefit, but please don't worry about us when you're making this
No,
decision.
that is just one of many options that they give us. There's voting and all sorts of other options that are available as well.
It sounds to me like, Susan, you're really evaluating them based on their functionality for public facing
Yes.
components first and foremost. And of course, the beauty factor,
Right.
beauty and ease of use. And then these are just some additional sidebar notes that you had. For example, the Notify Me is great. It is public facing.
Yeah.
The agenda function, you know, all those bells and whistles could be additional bits, but aren't really the big decision-making
No.
aspects.
And with both of these vendors, we can stream straight to the website, which would be advantageous of not having to use YouTube. That we
Oh,
would-
nice.
Yeah, we would then have control over our videos and not have to worry about whether YouTube crashes or anything like that. It would all come
Does
through.
it come with a courtroom sound system?
Hey, are you talking to Bob Lincoln on a regular basis over there? Because that's his question to me every time.
Can you spell Granicus for me?
Granicus.
Oh my gosh, I got it right. Okay, I wanted to make sure I had that right in our notes.
And the other
So-
one is Civic Plus, and I think I've already sent you that one.
Yeah. So this is great, and I don't have any further questions. They both look beautiful and seem to be, effective,
Right.
easy to use for public. How soon will you have estimates to where you can make some decisions?
By the end of this week, we will have estimates. The plan is to ballpark the number in and send that through for CARES Act funding and see if we can get this covered under those available funds. The big thing I'm looking at is how much this is going to cost us on a yearly basis, because there are yearly fees associated with hosting and such. So to make sure that those are not going to be extremely high after the fact.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited about this, and I'm hoping by the time we meet again, it will be locked down and we can move on. Commissioner Wheeler.
One question I have is, how easy is it to post things to this, the way we use,
Easy.
especially right now, notice is, we need to be able to post those without having to wait for a third party to get them up. Is that possible?
It is absolutely easy. Right now, you're not really waiting on a third party to put them up in-house. Sherry does that.
Right,
So
I understand.
Yeah, it's a similar back-end system to what we're using now, so it is extremely easy.
Very
It will
good.
be a breeze to maintain. And this integrates into our social media as well, so that we can make posts through the website, and it'll propagate the information on the website as well as social media, so we're keeping the message consistent.
How long would you guess from the time you contract with one of these groups until there's, and I know that websites are never a finished product, but
Right.
until you think something up and running that's at least at its core, a functional interface for our purposes, stood up kind of.
Yeah, 3 to 5 months before we would change over with both of the companies,
Okay, great.
which is the best part, is it's not 9 months out. It would, once we pull the trigger on it, we would probably have a new website by spring, into first quarter next year.
And do you have to spend that CARES money by Jan 1?
That is by the end of December. So what we would be doing is you can allocate the funds out for that. So as long as we have the quote and the process has started, it will fall into their guidelines as to what we have to do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate that update. It's very positive.
Most of the companies we're talking to are familiar with the guidelines for CARES and have been very helpful on providing information that we need to prepare the proposals to submit.
Awesome.
But I'll send you all these links so you can kind of glance at them in your spare time. And I would encourage you to look at these not only on your desktop, but also on your mobile devices. If you have an iPad, if you have a phone, just to see how much better these behave than what we have now, because folks are going to websites mainly from phones as far as the devices they use.
That's a great point.
Yeah, so, check them out, look at them. That's what I always do, look at them in both environments.
What's coming up for me is just the value in having our group. It's great that we got a chance to see what a couple of your options are, and I don't know that I have the expertise or ability to vet those, and I think you're doing that job quite well, but it would be great, like in our next meeting, to vet a bit of the content and how it's laid out, just so that you have the support of this group in kind of going forward to the county. Is, I guess at some point, the commission probably will be interested in seeing how that rolls out. It's going to be helpful for commissioners and other elected officials to be able to point people to the website. And if we don't know how it's functioning or what it looks like or where things are, especially special features like the notify me, then we won't be using it effectively. So,
Exactly. Like right now, we do have with 911 Everbridge, which is an emergency alert notification system that people can sign up for, that you have to go to 911's website to do it. However, it's not really well advertised nor very well utilized. For instance, the other day when we had the fire up on 11E that shut 11E down in both directions, there was not an alert that was sent out saying that the road was closed and how long it would be closed. So
Yep.
you know, that would have been an excellent moment for us to step in and send something out. So that's why
Right.
I've worked with both 911 and EMA to make sure that we're all on board with using a system that could send out alerts, push alerts out, because that's an important thing for folks.
for sure. Great. Let's go ahead and switch over to the social media policy, if that's okay with others. And Sherry, I didn't hear from you. Did you have any questions or thoughts on the website?
I don't. Susan and I have been discussing it as she's researching these things, so I didn't have anything to add to what she said.
Awesome. When she shared her screen, your little tile dropped off my bar, and so I just saw you again.
I'm still here.
So glad. Okay,
do want-
so
In there, Commissioner Jones, just as the chair of this committee, that legal hasn't, the websites look fabulous and that's outside our wheelhouse, but legal hasn't discussed any of that or any of the problems or concerns or anything. So if that is something that would be a factor in the county's decision-making, I think that this department has probably a number of lists that we could probably recommend for streamlining the efficiency of the packet preparation, but I think that's separate from the website. So again, I would just renew that if it touches this department, that we would like the opportunity to comment on it and not have the problem characterized from, you know, another office.
thank you. Okay, so I don't know, Susan, do you want to share your screen so that we can see the social media policy?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I've got that. I don't think I have that file open, but I can.
And if you need me to, I can too.
Because I
So-
was on a release.
Ms. Wilkinson has produced an amazingly professional looking document. I was so impressed that I actually wasted paper to print it out and physically hold it in my hands, so I could just experience it even more. So, and I just think maybe we could spend a few minutes just looking at some of the key pieces. And then I think since we just got it and we're missing some folks, the thing to do is send it back out to everyone, maybe with the changes accepted. So it's you know, a kind of a finalized or finalish looking document, and let everyone have a few minutes to look at.
The PDF
that?
version, the PDF version does not track the changes.
Okay. Okay, so so it starts with a preamble that just kind of states the sort of purpose of having such a policy. And if you want to just scroll through that, Susan, we don't need to spend a lot of time, but it does make the case that we need a policy for all platforms. And so then it gets into kind of the use of the policy and how it complements other ways of communicating. I think there are several places in this document, and this is one of them right there, Susan Fries, where it talks about the communications director as kind of the sort of primary manager of social media platforms, in coordination with the county mayor and elected officials. And if I remember correctly, the document names the chairman as the elected official for the county commission. Did I get that right, Allison?
Yes, I added that in, and that really touches on one of the fundamental issues in addressing these revisions is that the concept makes total sense that the county is, of course, the county as a whole. Our chief executive is our chief financial officer, the county mayor, and the communications director reports to the county mayor, and therefore, he should be looped in on everything. However, the county mayor does not control the constitutional offices of the trustee, the assessor, the register of deeds, the sheriff's office, the superintendent of highways, et cetera. So those individuals should be determining their messaging. Right now, we have one website with separate areas for these offices. But if there's going to be social media, I think that is one of the things that this committee really needs to look at. All of the elected officials, except for the legislative body, the commissioners, are county employees. And so I just put the chairman in there to be treated like an elected official for purposes of this policy, keeping in mind that no individual commissioner can speak for the legislative body as a whole. And I'm taking up your time here with that because that's the important concept, is that the mayor can't, be in the position where he's messaging for another elected official. That puts our county mayor in a position that is not supportable, and that that he probably wouldn't have time to do. And so our communications director needs to have a real clear line there so that she knows whose messages she's messaging and what they have asked, whether it's message by message or whether it's a broad stroke. But that really does belong with each constitutional office holder, and that's what I've tried to put in here, so that you don't have individual commissioners speaking on behalf of the county, or the mayor, and I'm saying burdened as if, just because that's outside his scope, to be speaking for the trustee or some other office. We've got to maintain those lines. Does
Sure.
that make sense?
It does. So, I mean, if there was a will by the body of commissioners to have a message broadcast about something we are working on, let's say it's our 3 objectives, then
Right.
the chairman would have the authority to say, go ahead and let the internets know through social media that we're doing this retreat, or we're excited about this thing. But it
That's
wouldn't
right.
prohibit me, it doesn't prohibit me from saying to Susan, hey, I'm going to get to speak at this press release for these propane buses. And the mayor's going to be there and the superintendent of schools is going to be there. It'd be great to show that Washington County elected officials are, speaking at this event.
I think that that's a great example, and that, for example, Washington County is speaking, and who's there from Washington County? It's an easy answer with our county mayor, because we know he's a designated person. But I think, and he speaks for the county as a whole as our chief executive officer. But where we get into, and this is a conversation, to have more broadly, is that we want to be respectful of our communications director, that she's not in a position where, not in your example, but individuals are saying, well, I'd like to be highlighted for doing this, that, or.
Yeah, it's a fine line because, the commissioners that do interesting things create some good news for the county. But
Right.
Also it could be seen as favoritism or political promotion or whatever. And so,
Or just a reminder, the way to manage the example you gave is that the legislative body only speaks when it's convened as a whole, and it speaks through its resolutions. So, for example, the example you gave, there's a resolution tying the legislative body to those propane buses. So our communications director would want to think of the legal and communication impacts of streamlining the message in a way that's consistent with taking action, that she's not putting a single commissioner out there. And I think that's the way you track it, is you track
Gotcha.
it through the.
Gotcha.
I absolutely agree with that. I think, and there's an example floating around today where and I had a conversation with the chairman this morning where a resolution was modified with good intentions, but modified from what a committee had passed and got to his desk to sign, and he realized this is not what the committee voted on. And so we're going to have to re-vote on that next month to clear that up. And I think that's the kind of thing we're talking about here. The lines of, it's even with good intentions, somebody can say, well, this is what they're doing, but it's not them. It's not that body saying it. So that's where I think that absolutely makes sense that the chairman, the extent somebody's speaking for the commission, it should be the chairman.
That's great. Any other, so to me, that was one of the standout issues in terms of this policy, is the way in which it directs how messaging evolves and is determined and then moves forward to get posted on social media. And I feel good about the way this is worded, and I think that we've addressed some of the potential snafus. Any other concerns? Okay, Susan, if you want to scroll down, this little section right here, I thought was pretty just
The account-
straightforward. Yeah, account management. I didn't really see anything here either that was particularly important to review, and it's very much, you can see from the writing, it's a lot of what you had originally
Oh, yeah.
included.
I had
So,
no problems with anything that was in here. Everything looked great to me.
great. If you'll go down just another section.
You want me to keep going? I don't want to make anyone see
Yeah, no, yeah, keep going, because this is all stuff that's pretty much what you had before. And then here you can stop. This is where we get into some of the ickiness of communications and like how we respond to comments and when we take comments that people make off of the site.
Right. Something
and-
that I've done in the past that we might want, I would strongly suggest us doing at all of the banks that I work with on projects like this, we have a list of canned responses. Sometimes you'll get people to air their grievances and all they really want is to be heard. We would get them where people would complain about teller lines and things like that. And we had a standard, I'm so sorry to hear this. Can I put you in contact with the branch manager? So in our instance, if we have someone who, say we posted something about the water task force, it's on my mind since we just ended the meeting, and someone on Taylor Bridge Road would be like, hey, how long is it going to be before we get water down here? I've called everybody. We could say, would it be okay if we had your commissioner reach out to you? And then you say, let's discuss this offline. And you take into the direct message part to get their phone number, because you don't want their phone number out there for everyone to see. And then that would get referred on to the commissioner in whose district they would be in.
Yep.
And that's
So
just an
Allison,
example.
Go ahead.
That's
Sorry,
an
Susan.
example of one. That's okay. That's an example of one instance I can think of where we would have a somewhat canned response that we can
Sure.
put out there, because it is important to respond to people.
It is. And even like a more stressful example where somebody's like, you all don't know what you're doing. This is the worst ever. We hate this new policy. And you have the canned response of, we really appreciate you expressing your concerns. Please feel free to call blah, blah, or something, right?
Exactly.
So Allison, from your perspective, if we are in general agreement, and we may end up as a group deciding this is not the way to go, but if we're starting a conversation now about some canned responses to comments that seem to demand a response of some sort. Do we need to write a section there that, or elaborate that section further?
I do think it needs to be developed. There was nothing in the comment policy that addressed how the county would respond to comments. It makes total sense, and it's a great point to have it focused on what kind of comments are appropriate and subject to removal. But, and again, that goes down to, and it's one of those exponential trees that, you know, then you might have the communications director calling the trustee, what about this one? What do you want to say about that one? Because always they maintain the voice of their message. And the reason I say that is because there's case law that says that if there's a problem with, I think it was case law, it could have been a law review article that discusses, you know, social media with elected officials, that the impact may not come with the individual posts, it will come at the ballot box. And so, you know, this is a very heavy task for the communications director. And I think it's important to talk about it candidly so that she's given all the support she needs on the front end, that, you know, she's being asked to do something that's a pretty big job, which is, you know, how will she know what the right answer is for each, you know, where's the discretion that she should have? She might not know that there's a difference between the partial payment in the trustee's office from 2018, but they want to pay 2017 and they can't, you know, what the resolution
Sure.
said.
Sure.
So, you know, those canned answers can be real easy button answers, but I think it would be good to be developed. So I'm sorry to be so
Okay.
long about that, but it needs development.
Mr. Wheeler?
I don't know whether maybe we discussed this previously, but I'm not in favor of allowing comments at all. And I'll tell you why. I think it's absolutely impossible for one person to decide what comments or posts are personal attacks when you're talking about an elected body. So if Commissioner Jones posts next week that Commissioner Wheeler didn't know what he was talking about when he said we shouldn't have comments, you know, is that a personal attack? Commissioner Wheeler might think so. Commissioner Jones might think not. What does Ms. Saylor do? You know, I think that, you know, when you get into an election season, that's going to be a very difficult line to walk. And I think that we're going to have people offended that they've been attacked. It may not even be Washington County elected officials. What if they go in there and put, you know, the Johnson City Commission didn't know what they were doing or didn't know what they had. What are we going to, you know, politically, that may be a disaster for the county to have that on our website, but is it a personal attack that we should take off, you know?
Well, then we do have a section below handling the removal of comments. That seems to have been covered. Response to comments was not covered, but we do have a immediate removal or subject to banishment section.
For what?
I guess we eliminate all of this if we eliminate comments altogether. I will say, just from having met with Keisha Schoen about this years ago, when we first started working on it, even before Susan came, they allow comments on the city page. She said it's extremely rare for there to be something on there that, you know, they have a concern about. That isn't to say that we need to do it. I just remember that conversation. Susan, anything you would add?
Well, if we're going to use this as a communications tool, it needs to be a two-way communications tool.
I disagree with that.
And that right there, if you look on some of the social media sites, the crazy people tend to gravitate towards WJHL's website. They can post something on the city's website and it gets near no comments. I mean, on the city's Facebook page, rather. And then it will be on WJHL's Facebook page, same story. And that's where all the comments go, because that's where they know they'll get the most argument. They'll get the reaction there.
If we're effective, if we make this an effective communications tool, we'll have that problem though. That's why WJHL gets those comments, is because more people are using
Right.
those WJHL posts and that site. So
But they're
if
going
we're
for
effective and we become the place that people go to get the information, we'll get the comments, I think.
I wonder, that's great. It's great that we have two different positions, and I don't want us to go too far down the debate road, because this is if we want to have a debate and discussion about it, we ought to do that with everybody on the call so we can get a feel for which direction folks want to go. And then, another way to do this is to open it as a no comments opportunity, pilot that for 6 months, and then revisit the opportunity for comments. And that could be another short-term trial if we decide we want to go that way. So we have a few options here.
Do we know for a fact that Facebook and Twitter and Instagram allow a no comment interface? Because I thought that only YouTube allowed you to have no comments. I thought you were all in.
You can turn comments off on posts.
Yep.
And I mean, that is an option on Facebook. It is not on Twitter.
Okay.
It is not on Instagram either. You can on Facebook. I'm going to pull us together some municipality Facebook pages just so we can kind of see what kind of things they're getting. I'm going to pick some large ones and some small ones so that, we can have a good representation of what's happening around us in Johnson City and Bristol, so that we can look at that and get an idea of, we can always turn it on and turn it off. That's no big deal.
Mhm.
I mean, it's not like we either have it on when we start up and that's how it is for forever, or we have it off and that's how it has to be for forever.
Hey, the good news is if we turn it on and people post a lot of really challenging and disruptive things and we turn it back off, they can't comment on it.
And that'll be extremely political if we make that decision after the fact.
I realize that. I was just being funny.
Well, I understand, but that's where I think we're headed if we don't, if we're not careful.
Yeah, we need to make the right decision the first time.
Yeah.
So
And I think that's something that ultimately you're right, this group needs to vote on a recommendation to the commission. But I want to be upfront about this. When it comes to the commission, I'm going to speak out that we need to be really careful what we start. And the commissioners, from a political standpoint, and the office holders need to think about, whether because you're not going to want to stop this in the middle of a heated issue.
No.
agree.
Yeah.
Agree. Let's have the action items for the social media policy B, that Susan prepares a clean copy. It sounds like there is one in a PDF, circulates that to our whole group again. Actually, if you'll just send that to me, I'll put it out with the minutes from this meeting, and I'll make it really clear to folks that we need to discuss at length the inclusion versus non-inclusion of comments, and the importance of, if we do decide to include comments, coming up with a response policy, more so than just a removal policy. And that can be a bit more of a discussion with this group at our next meeting. And in addition to any other feedback folks have, but I feel like we've just covered the main issues of the document. Are there other issues you all want to discuss, or do you want to discuss this particular issue further?
Commissioner Jones, could I point out, because it was just a congested note there on, part of that is you, I think, also want your colleagues to discuss the reposting of information.
Mm-hmm.
So if, for example, Johnson City posts something, or there's a fair, or there's a business that is in trouble, does the county repost that? Does the office how do other stories, because of, I think most experts on this topic break down percentages of original content, reposted content, shares, etc. And that is going to be a fundamental consideration for y'all.
That's a great point. Thank you. Thoughts, feedback. And I'm not trying to rush this conversation. I'm trying to be sensitive that we have about 10 more minutes and just acknowledging that we have some really good definition around the problems at this point. So if we can.
Well, can I jump in with 2 more legal points just so that you've got all of them at once? And that is that
Sure.
there were multiple references to the Open Records Act, and I haven't gone back through, is every social media capitalized, should it be, those kinds of polishing I think do warrant some time. But I think it's great, y'all's draft had that in it, that it will become an open record, but open records will still go through the county attorney's office, and that's under the open records policy. I deleted some language that it would be going elsewhere, that if there are requests for copies of social media, that will be an open records request, and it'll be handled under the open records policy. I think you also want to know the cost of that. I added in the legal section, just because it's on there one day and you're backing it up doesn't mean it'll be there forever. And there's a process about, retention requests, et cetera, that most social media platforms require. And so that can be quite costly to maintain. So I put, is a weekly update sufficient? What does BCTI say? And do we have any idea of the cost of the archival method that we've set out? There's a methodology set out in this policy, and it makes sense, but do we know how much it would cost to maintain that and to collect that data in its original format with metadata intact? And that can be quite expensive.
That is how you download it straight from Facebook. It downloads all the metadata when you do those backups and archiving. I've done this in the past. It is, there's fancy dancy things we can do, buying software and things like that, but it is really just a stored file that will be on the server.
Well, having just done electronic discovery for a lawsuit, it was not that way, and we did have to, it typically is not, doesn't meet the standards to just, here's a copy. And so I just want to be sure that we've memorialized what we're going to do, because this is the policy we'll have to use. And there are ways to do it, and we just did it, and we did it with what we have now on the website and that sort of thing, and loading to a secure FTP. And I know it can be done. I just want to be sure that when we set up this policy, since we'll be bound by it, that we advise the commission and the elected officials on the cost associated with it. And then finally, I did put in there that that each elected official would be responsible for, that they're acknowledging the potential liability, and that goes to the, comments y'all have had, and that they'll safeguard against potential liability both to the county and to the office holder. There are instances of lawsuits where individuals post things on social media, and that forms the basis of defamation and other causes of action. And so that they will then review carefully the information that's disclosed on social media, and that they'll also provide their staff with training. So just in case y'all didn't see that, I didn't want that to be there and an elected official ask you about it. I think that's really important. I think it's a good opportunity for the communications director to share her knowledge about best practices and this sort of thing. I also think, I put in here, we currently don't have a process for any legal review of anything that gets posted in a press release or social media. So I just put that the county attorney will be available for advice and counsel, but nothing is flowing through the county attorney's office. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. If you want it any other way, then you would need to edit that.
Thank you. Comments? Allison, I appreciate that so much. I obviously was looking at it in a short period of time and missed some of those additional critical pieces, and you did a nice job summarizing those for us.
And I
And
apologize.
I wrote them down, so they will be in minutes, anybody that looks at them. And I will absolutely make a short and bulleted list of the key issues here for the members that didn't attend today, so that when they look at this thing, they have, you know, some ideas about what it is we've discussed and are focusing on. I think that you were going to give us, Susan, just a brief update of, you know, management system. Do you want to do that now, or do you feel like that's a better conversation for once we have the policy knocked out? Or
Let's do that when we have a policy knocked down. Just know that we do have a system in place that the mayor and I have both looked at and evaluated, that not only would track and archive what we're doing, it would also aggregate out comments that are made and posts made on public forums across the internet. So it's not just social media, it would be newspapers, radio, anything that goes out there. Would give us a complete digest every morning of where items have popped up about Washington County, Tennessee, and we can expand that out to include the school system, ETSU, you know, anything within Washington County that I think that the commission would like to keep track of. We can add that. And it's pretty amazing. Hamblen County just signed up to use it. Oak Ridge is currently using it. I talked to them at length, and it provides a great digest every day. And it also gauges public opinion based on districts. So we could see exactly if someone in Jim's district had an interest in a certain project that had been discussed either in social media that was either ours or, let's say, WJHL or WCYB's, and it would aggregate out those comments and tell us if it was a positive thing or a negative thing based on how people were reacting. So we can also run surveys through this group if we wanted to survey the public on a specific thing, and it's all inclusive in the packages that they're showing us.
and if we decide not to use comments, does it still track like shares and like
Yeah.
clicks and
Yes.
things like that?
It absolutely does.
Great. I think that's really important if we're going to continue to, there's no way we're going to know if this is useful without something like that, and just our anecdotal reports from constituents telling us that's a great website or that's a great Facebook page or whatever. And so it sounds like this management system may help us not only have some evidence for the you know, impact or footprint of social media, but also other communication efforts we're making across.
Exactly, like with the mask mandate, some of the examples they were showing us, especially in Oak Ridge, was after they enacted the mask mandates, looking at whether that was a positive or negative thing with their constituents across the city of Oak Ridge. It's pretty good data to review from an elected official standpoint, just to get the pulse, because we probably only hear from about 10 to 15% of the population on a regular basis.
It's great. When I think about how hard it is for the public to stay current with county business, you know, it's just super exciting to think about getting this off the ground and having county business and interests popping up in people's phones a little more frequently, and hopefully getting them aware of what's going on. It's great. So the next item was, anything else? Can I keep going?
Keep going.
Okay. The next item was selecting a standing meeting time. And I was going to go ahead and propose, like, today is Wednesday. I think we've alternated Tuesday and Wednesdays around 1:30 or 2 o'clock. Jim, do you have a thought, or Sherry or Susan? Because we could, just the four of us, put together 2 times and then get the other 3 to weigh in on that. And if nothing works, then we'll start from scratch. But starting from scratch with 7 people is a little challenging.
Are you looking monthly or weekly or how often?
Monthly.
Monthly? So the next one would be like the 23rd of September, if that was Wednesday.
If we keep going on this schedule, yeah.
I'm fine with it. I mean, either afternoon's good for me.
I know that at one time we talked about trying to get these meetings a little more coordinated with the agenda. So if we wait till the 23rd of September, I don't know that we'll have any business that needs to be voted on in September. We may get through the social media policy, I don't know, but we will miss the agenda for September if we wait till the 23rd.
Right.
What was the other day you were talking about? Was it Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday at 2.
Tuesdays would work better for me than Wednesdays do.
Okay,
I have to cancel a standing staff meeting if we do it on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, but I can do that if necessary. But if others could do it, I'd prefer to do it Tuesdays.
okay.
That far out, whatever time you want to do it.
Does it make sense to put it on the same week as our other committees or the day before budget, just to keep it in the cycle?
Actually, I like the idea of, like if it's the week of the 26th you're looking at there, where we're not on the same week, so we don't have so many meetings that week.
Okay, so it would put us at September 22nd. It's Tuesday at 2. And then we'll just try to schedule it that way. Okay. So it's the 4th Tuesday at 2. And we'll just see how others feel. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
If you're doing the 4th Tuesday, then in October, it would fall the day after commission.
Yeah, that's what I was getting ready to point out.
I mean, we just happen to have an extra Tuesday in September.
Does that hurt anything? I mean, the thing it does for us is gives you all plenty of time after our meeting to get it on the committee agendas and that kind of.
That's true. Yeah, that would work. You could work a month ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think you also should be routing through CIA. That's what you've done in your past action, since this is a task force created out of CIA.
Yep.
That puts you in front of that meeting.
Okay. The last piece was just the update regarding the mayoral email updates. Anything you wanted to say about that, Susan, or did you want input or?
We have another one that will be going out tomorrow, and I'm going to actually request read receipts this time to see how many commissioners are opening that email.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Like
it didn't seem like it did very well the last time. I don't think many folks opened it.
Awesome.
So maybe
Some
we need to,
people-
huh?
Just be aware some people are set up. I'm set up to never send read receipts. So,
Okay, I may need a catchier subject line like we burned the courthouse down or something. I don't.
Right. Use a really obnoxious memo line.
Yeah.
You could always just call them. Did you read the email? And then we'll ask 2 or 3 quiz questions to test their knowledge to
No,
see
no
if they
quizzes.
actually did read
No
it.
quizzes. I have test anxiety, no quizzes.
Okay, very good. I do not have any other business that I had to cover. Is there any business that anyone here wants to raise? All right, I guess I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion. I like that one.
Okay. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second. I think Jim wants to stay.
I just likes it here.
I'll take that as a compliment, Jim. All right,
Absolutely.
thank you all for your time. I guess,
Well, I have to go. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
all right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
See everybody later.